Hello, everybody. It's Laurie from the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to episode 100, Magic 100, the century point of Chamber TV. And it seems like we've been here for a very long time, talking with folks and bringing perspectives to the business community during this time. And I can't think of a more apt and suitable guest for us today on our 100th episode, and that is Andrew Bramson. Andrew is the president and CEO of the College Crusade of Rhode Island, a very, very, very important organization to us, to our membership, and to families throughout the state and businesses. So, Andrew, welcome. How are you today?
Welcome. Happy New Year. It's great to be with you.
Happy New Year to you as well. And we always start each of our broadcasts, Andrew, by just sort of doing a little bit of a check-in and making sure that we're all happy and safe and secure and, going about our business as is necessary as 2021 begins to, roll here. How are you doing?
We're doing okay. It had a little break between Christmas and New Year's, which was nice. And I have two kids, one who's a junior in high school and one who's a seventh grader. And one is all virtual for the entire school year pretty much. And one, I just dropped him off this morning after winter break. So he's in person. So it's nice to have both the kids back in school. And other than that, we're all safe and healthy and hopeful, optimistic, and a lot of togetherness.
Yep, I love your spirit. And I know that you and your family are really inveterate travelers, and I'm looking at your backdrop there, and that's probably something very special from some of a previous worldwide jaunt. Tell us what's behind you.
So I was a former Peace Corps volunteer when I graduated from college, so you get a certain travel bug when you've been in the Peace Corps. So over my this shoulder here is a mask from a trip that we took to Ecuador about 20 years ago from a very famous market town in Ecuador called Otavalo. And on my other shoulder here is a marionette that I got with my wife when we were in Myanmar, in Burma, in Mandalay 20 years ago, when we went to a marionette factory and a marionette theater. And so those were great keepsakes from wonderful, wonderful trips.
Mm-hmm. So it was only appropriate that you would keep them visible for you to remember on a daily basis what it was like to actually be a global traveler.
And yes, we canceled a couple of trips in 2020, but we're already getting ready for hopefully toward the end of 2021 to use those passports again. Fantastic.
So let's start our conversation about the College Crusade of Rhode Island. As I mentioned, an important organization, a great member of the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce, and you are a great leader, Andrew. So tell us a little bit about your work.
Sure. So the College Crusade is the state's largest college access and success program. And our mission is to help prepare and inspire young people to become the first in their families to attend and complete college. And we are a really comprehensive program. We work with about 4,000 students a year, predominantly in the urban communities of Rhode Island. And we work with students starting all the way in the 6th grade, and we work with them all the way through college, providing support around academic enrichment, social and emotional development, career education, and post-secondary preparation. We work with 37 schools, both middle school and high school, both traditional public schools as well as charter schools. And what we're really trying to focus on is to help students figure out that journey for them through middle school and high school and into college. We work really closely with students and really closely with families in this journey.
Is there a source of financial aid in addition to the social and emotional assistance and the socializing of the norm of, applying to college and getting familiar with that very, very complicated FAFSA process?
Yeah, so we've been around for 3 decades, and one of the reasons why we've been so successful over the years is not only do we provide programming, but we provide a scholarship to our students, and that scholarship is based on participation. So the more hours you do in our programs, the higher your scholarships can go. And so right now, those scholarships are as much as $4,500 a year for 4 years for students. And what's really unique about our scholarships is that they cover what's called cost of attendance in the world of post-secondary finance. So that means that our students can use their scholarships for tuition or fees or books or transportation or living expenses. And so it's real money. We are a last dollar scholarship. So what happens is all students' federal financial aid is counted, whatever state aid they get, and then our money comes into play. And so the scholarship is a very important incentive for participation and really an important component in helping students enroll in post-secondary education and ultimately complete their degree.
Mm-hmm. Now, you have been president and CEO of the College Crusade for, I'm guessing, 5 or 6 years.
It'll be 5 years later this year. So
yes,
time has moved quickly.
Yeah. So I asked that because I'm curious to know what, even though some people would say, well, 5 or 6 years, that's, sort of a short period of time. But in this world, what changes have you seen over the course of your tenure relative to students and their ability and their proclivity to access this kind of aid?
So the over the years, the desire to go to college has really stayed the same. The interest, what we've really focused on over the last few years is really an intentional focus around first generation students. And so, at a point in time when college access programming was beginning in the 90s and in the early 2000s, we used to use language like low income or at risk or underserved. And we found that students never really use those terms to identify themselves. Students never think of themselves as low income or underserved or at risk. But they do really gravitate toward identifying themselves as first generation. And in our world, we define first generation as a student in which no parent in their household has a 4-year degree from a U.S. college or university. And 93% of our students are first generation students. And we have found that both students and families really gravitate toward that moniker of being first gen. And it also sort of helps with community relations and business development and donor relations. It's so easy to connect somebody to the organization when you talk to them and they say, oh, I was a first gen student. People love to tell you their own success stories about how that they were the first in their family to go to college. And so we've really tried to emphasize and elevate that idea.
Do you have any idea what percentage of the population in general is first generation college student?
I don't. I should figure that. I don't really know that. I mean, we have pretty good data on what educational attainment levels are throughout the state, but I don't have that information.
Yeah, I didn't mean to catch you off guard, but it just occurred to me that it is such a ubiquitous state of mind, if you will, in terms of people understanding, what's at stake and where their families have been, and the notion of, being the first in your family to actually get a 4-year degree. Are there any restrictions on individuals that might be interested in accessing your program?
So there are a couple of admissions requirements. Students need to live in or attend either Providence, Pawtucket, Central Falls, Cranston, Woonsocket, or West Warwick. They have to be attending one of the 37 schools, really about the 18 or 19 middle schools that we work with. And they either, at the time of admission, they either need to qualify for free and reduced price lunch or self-identify as a first generation student. And those are really the only two criteria. It's only at the time of admission into the program, which happens in the 6th grade. There's no subsequent sort of income verification. And the first generation is really a self-attestation.
So there are no financial restrictions associated with the first generation piece?
No, so and we made this change a couple of years ago because, for many, many years, it was all about if you qualified for free and reduced price lunch, you were eligible to join the College Crusade. And what we were seeing over time was a lot of first generation students were just beyond that cusp of qualifying for free and reduced price lunch. And they were not, as a result, they weren't eligible to participate in our program. And what we determined was it really wasn't about an income threshold. It was really about whether these students and their families had experienced the journey of what it's like to prepare to college and go to college. And so we made a pretty fundamental change to allow students, regardless of income, if they were first generation, to be able to participate in our program. And that really allows us to focus more on the journey of college as opposed to an income threshold.
And as long as you're within one of those communities, correct?
Yes, but what's interesting about the College Crusade is all you have to do is be enrolled in a particular school, in a particular community in the 6th grade. But we know that there's so much student mobility, both within schools as well as within communities. And for our students, as long as they stay in Rhode Island after the 6th grade, they continue to be a part of the College Crusade. They continue to participate in our programs. So we actually have a full-time mobile advisor for both middle school and high school students who follow students. So if a student moves to Cumberland, or a student moves to Coventry, or a student moves to a different school, they stay in the College Crusade through their experience.
So you bring a very nimble entrepreneurial mindset to this engagement. So I think that it sounds like that has made a big difference relative to being able to, think through exactly, what is the objective, as you point out, first generation students, getting them, at least thinking about college. What other entrepreneurial aspects have you brought to the program in the last couple of years to really stand out?
So some of the things that we've done, especially during the pandemic period, is obviously all of our program used to be in person. Now we've really pivoted to make all of our programming virtual, and that has had real benefits in terms of student engagement, especially both in terms of the end of last school year and getting students into college. We are eager to get back to in-person programming, but we really don't think that there'll be a snapback. There'll always be a virtual component, and we think that is something that is we're really looking forward to. This particular year, we've done a lot of innovation around supporting students who plan to go to college, and sometime during the September, the first few weeks of what was called this year, they decided they stopped out. They either because of financial considerations or health considerations or distance learning considerations. And what we have done this year is work exclusively with students who we would typically call these students who are taking a gap year, but it's really not the kind of gap year that you and I would think about. This is not a gap year of travel or self-exploration. This is a gap year of students just really don't know what they want to do. And so we've worked really to develop a gap cohort of students to make sure that we can get them back enrolled into post-secondary education as soon as we possibly can, whether that's this upcoming semester or the upcoming summer or next fall. We really know that our data really shows that for students to complete a college degree, their best strategy is to enroll in college immediately after high school and to do that full time.
Is this a situation where the pivoting around the pandemic has created a situation where you foresee any permanent changes to the way you're programming this?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. We saw a real uptick in some of our participation during the pandemic, and that we sort of attribute that to two reasons. One is that we were competing less. There was less for us competing with our students. Students weren't working as much. They weren't participating in other school or club activities. And so we had a real captive audience. But the other aspect of it was that there was a real cohort of students in our program that really gravitated toward participating in a virtual setting. They found it more convenient. They also had a real opportunity to collaborate with students from different schools. A lot of the programming that we do is school-based, whereas the virtual program really opened it up. And so it was really an opportunity for students from different schools and different communities to collaborate with different types of programming. That will clearly stay as we move toward the future. The other aspect of it is that we really use the opportunity to figure out how we could expand greater access to our programming. Traditionally, the College Crusade model is that we enroll students in the 6th grade and we work with them all the way through college. And that is in the past, when we've encountered students who've either come to Rhode Island in high school or later on, we haven't really had a lot of options for them to participate in our type of programming. The pandemic has changed that. So we serve almost 1,500 non-Crusaders this summer through virtual programming. We are partnering with the Providence Public Schools this semester to do a dual enrollment, a concurrent enrollment program with CCRI and in Providence Public Schools, where we're working with students who didn't enroll in our program in the 6th grade, and we'll continue to sort of build out that access going forward.
So I wanted to pick up on what you said about the programming during the course of enrollment from the 6th grade going forward, and the more programming a student accesses, the greater the scholarship at the end. What kinds of activities have you built into this program that would count towards the ultimate achievement of the full 4,500?
Sure. So we break our programming up into four components. The academic enrichment, which is really a lot of academic backfilling for students. So courses around math preparation, reading preparation, writing preparation. That's a big component of our programming. The other component of our program is leadership development, social and emotional development, where students can get together and work on leadership projects and the like that really allow them to sort of separate from the academics, but really sort of help them build out their sort of personal portfolio. The third component is career education. So we're a college access program. We think that college is the most predictable pathway to sort of economic self-sufficiency, but we know that not everybody's going to go to college, and we really need to make sure that a lot of our students have an expectation or an understanding of what career they would like to choose even before they go to college. So we do a lot of career speakers, career alumni speakers, where students can really get a sense of what careers are really like for them. And then the fourth is, which is probably one of the more significant ones, is the post-secondary preparation process. So that is a lot of college visits, financial aid support, working out with the FAFSA, and I hope we can talk a little bit about the changes to the FAFSA that are coming. But helping students apply to colleges, practice with interviews, practice with college essay writing, helping them evaluate college offers, and all of that, all of that work, and that work continues through while students go into college. We continue to work with them.
Wow, when you lay it out like that, it sounds so incredibly intimidating, right? To even contemplate the notion of going to college, right? If you put it in those terms, and given what's happened to higher ed over the course of the last couple of decades, huh?
Yeah, and the way our model works is the biggest investment that we make in our organization is, so we have 25 full-time advisors, and they're based in schools. So they're located in middle schools or in high school. So each student has an advisor that's assigned to them, whether in middle school, and then they get a new advisor while they're in high school, and then they actually get a third advisor when they enroll in college. This is a great relationship that these advisors have with students, because they're not teachers, they're not guidance counselors. They provide a really close working relationship with students to sort of help them figure out that journey. About a third of our advisors are actual Crusade alumni that have gone through our program, and almost a quarter of them this year are actually working in schools that they went to as students. So it gives these advisors really incredible instant credibility with students, because it can be hard. I mean, I've got a middle school student and a high school student at home. It can be hard to win them over, and so our advisors do an amazing job sort of cultivating that social connection.
I love the circular nature of it. It's like paying it forward and paying it backward all at the same time.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you mentioned the FAFSA and some upcoming changes, and this is such an important topic, and we have spent some time on Chamber TV about this. Episode number 87, actually, we spoke with Charlie Kelly from the Rhode Island Student Loan Authority about college financing and some of the programs that are available. So I imagine that College Crusade, if you think about the continuum of products and services that a student could access in his or her journey to going off to a four-year institution, that College Crusade plugs in, very nicely along the journey mapping alongside such programs as the Rhode Island Student Loan Authority. So can you just, take us through how College Crusade sits alongside RISLA?
Sure. So we partner really closely with the College Planning Center at RISLA to do FAFSA outreach. And again, this is sort of another example of, in the past, we've typically done supported our own students that are in those 4,000, every 500 every sort of year. We have about 500 seniors every year. We work with them to do, financial aid. This year, because of the pandemic, we sort of stretched into a new role, and we started doing FAFSAs for students really throughout the community, just because we had so much. We have, almost 36 people that can do FAFSAs, that have been doing them for a long, long time and can really troubleshoot anything that we do there. So we work really closely with RISLA. Through the spending bill that was just passed at the federal level, there was a major change to the FAFSA, major fixes and simplifications to the FAFSA. And any of your viewers have done the FAFSA, it is sort of a rite of passage to the college journey, but it's a very, very complicated one for everybody, but especially for first generation students and families that just haven't had that journey. And so we're very excited about, it's not for this cycle, but for the upcoming FAFSA cycle for next year, starting in next October, major simplifications that will reduce the number of questions that families have to answer by 2/3, and also makes low-income students really increase the amount of financial aid that they're going to qualify for, in particular the amount of Pell grants that they get, which really is so much of the financial aid process is determined on when our students and families figure out how much federal financial aid they're going to get, how much Pell award they're going to get. It really opens up so many doors and opportunities around 2-year and 4-year colleges.
Mm-hmm. And students are eligible for College Crusade support even if they are going to a 2-year institution?
Absolutely. So historically, we provide students support for 2-year and 4-year institutions. And I would say probably 1/3 of our students go to CCRI, and we have a great partnership with them. We've worked very closely with CCRI, especially around Rhode Island Promise, which I know the Chamber has been very actively supporting. And we work very closely with CCRI to preemptively and proactively reduce some of the remediation courses that students will have to take, and really coaching them along that first year at CCRI, which is really so critical. So many of those students obviously are commuter students or attending multiple campuses. They're a lot of our students in the four-year space, but especially our students in the 2-year space, Laurie, they're full-time students and they're full-time adults. And really us being able to support them along that journey is really critical to their success.
Yeah, so you mentioned Rhode Island Promise, which the Chamber has supported, and there is discussion ongoing about making the Rhode Island Promise permanent. Right now, there's a sunset provision attached to it. What do you think of that concept?
So we absolutely support that. Historically, Rhode Island, when you take the 3 public colleges and universities and compare them to other states around the country, Rhode Island sort of falls in a category of what's considered to be a high tuition, low need state. And that was really before Rhode Island Promise. Rhode Island Promise sort of helped increase the amount of state need that was being provided to students. We think that absolutely needs to continue, and to invest that in the community college is a great way to go. A couple of years ago, there was efforts to expand Rhode Island Promise to Rhode Island College. We were obviously very supportive of that. We think that students from a Promise perspective should really have a choice of a 2-year or a 4-year option. And that's really driven from our data, Laurie, over the years, which is if we know that if students are ready to do 4-year work at a 4-year institution, after completing high school, that's really the best place for them. And so we're very supportive of a permanent funding stream for Rhode Island Promise to CCRI, but we haven't given up hope expanding that to Rhode Island College from a 4-year perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. So again, another notch along the journey continuum of places that people can go, students can go, parents can look into to help complete the financial aid picture. There's so many resources out there. So I think that's an important message to continue to reinforce, that there are resources if you can just tap into some initial folks who can guide you along the way and then fill in the rest of the blanks. So our audience, Andrew, as you well know, is business professionals. So I'm curious to know how the College Crusade interfaces with local businesses and the degree to which this program is relevant to them.
Well, there's really two ways that we think about this. The first is that we are in essence a college access program, but that's sort of a proxy for our workforce development program. And so much of what we're trying to do is really help prepare the next generation of workforce in Rhode Island, and really by helping them access that college degree and increase that educational attainment and increase that skills, so businesses have a predictable workforce for the future. And so we work really closely with businesses from a career development perspective, from a philanthropy perspective, to really make sure that our students know that, first of all, you may stay in school, you may stay in Rhode Island to go to school, or you may leave Rhode Island. But we always sort of joke with families, especially when students go out of state, we say that they're all homing pigeons, that a lot of them are all going to come back to Rhode Island. We really want them to come back to something. And so when students know about businesses that are actively looking to hire college graduates just like ours, it is a great relationship. The other component that we really try to strive with businesses is that the return on investment of investing in the College Crusade is enormous. We've been working with Paul Harrington from Drexel University, who I know was a guest on your program last year. He is our external evaluator, and what we know is that we provide a huge economic benefit to the state of Rhode Island, both in terms of tax revenue generated and benefits saved over time. Really, it's an incredible return on investment, almost 20 to 1. For every $1 that the state invests in the College Crusade, the state ultimately gets back after 10 years a $20 return on investment. I think any business would love to get that type of ROI. Yeah,
20x. So what degree of investment does the state provide to the College Crusade?
So the state provides us a general operating support, and we were able to get that over the years. It's about 10% of our operating money. The other 90% comes from a combination of federal grants that we leverage, local philanthropic organization giving. The Rhode Island Foundation and the United Way are excellent partners. We also have wonderful corporate partners in the banking sector. Centerville Bank has been an excellent partner, especially during the pandemic, Amgen and the like. And so we're about 70% federal funding, 10% state funding, and then the other 20% we raise predominantly through local donations and local corporate support.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll be talking with the new facilities head from Amgen, Brian Britson, in the coming weeks. So we'll be sure to mention this program to him and, salute him and Amgen for recognizing the importance. Thinking also about some of the past interviews that we've done, in addition to the RISLA interview. We also interviewed Dan Bodwin and some colleagues from Providence Promise. So how does Providence Promise align with the College Crusade, where there's actually, a dollar amount that's invested, early on in an individual's, life cycle, and then that nest egg grows. So again, another piece of the puzzle.
Sure. So, we've been very supportive of trying to get families to open 529 accounts. We've worked really closely with Treasurer Magaziner to sort of make that work happen. We even a few years ago co-sponsored legislation with Treasurer Magaziner about sort of incentivizing or creating more tax benefits for low-income families to participate in the 529 program. The data that I'm sure Dan talked about is really compelling, and that is that when families, regardless of the amount, when students know that their families have something set aside for college, it becomes a major catalyst for students and families to allow to dream. And really, that's what we're really focusing on. Now, certainly during the pandemic, disposable income to set aside for college savings is certainly more challenging. But what we know is that this is still an important aspect. It's an important aspect both from a monetary perspective, but also just from a dream perspective of when students know that their families have some money set aside for college, it just opens up so many opportunities for them.
Yeah. So you're in the dream business, right?
We're in the dream business and we're in the journey business.
Yeah, that's very fulfilling, and it must be work that feels so satisfying for you and your team. How many folks work at the College Crusade, Andrew?
So we have about 50 full-time employees, and then a lot of the programs that we run are run by either teaching professionals or part-time staff. So all in all, we probably have about 125 employees throughout the year. We have 12,000 alumni that have gone through our program, and they're working in nearly every facet of the community. Anytime I'm at a meeting, when we were in in-person meetings, anytime that we would be in a larger group, I would never really hesitate to ask people to say, raise your hand if you're a College Crusade alum, because I've never been disappointed. I've always had at least one or two who have, and they're working in business, and they're working in government, and they're working in politics, and they're working in law enforcement. They're just working in so many different components. It's so gratifying, the work that we're doing on the ground, but also just the gratification that we have when we see people, so for instance, yesterday Jessica Vega was sworn in as the new city council president in Central Falls. What a great alum she is, and what a great support that she is. And, it's so great to sort of see these students go on to do incredible things. Yeah,
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about, the trajectory of your students and how deeply it's embedded, and, no one really knows, Yeah. So also talking about some of the folks that we've had this chance to talk to on Chamber TV, we've talked to Providence School Superintendent Harrison Peters, and we've also talked to the Commissioner of Education, Angelica Infante Green. So let's talk about what's going on in Providence with the system takeover by the state. What are your impressions of how that's going?
I think it's going well. So, the College Crusade was fortunate in that we have a great partnership with Rhode that we've had historically. We also have had a great partnership with PPSD, and we were really able to leverage both of those partnerships in terms of the takeover to sort of continue to do work. And so what that has meant for us is we've been able to because of Rhode's role and some of the additional funding that Rhode has been able to bring to the table through the pandemic, we've been able to serve more and more PPSD students at the College Crusade. Right now, they are our largest district. 1,600 students a year from Providence are in the College Crusade. So it's great to be able to bring some of the design thinking and some of the resources that Rhode has, as well as the individual partnerships that we have at the district and at the at the school level. One of the other things that has really come out through the takeover is and we've talked about this at the chamber level, is, the condition of the buildings and the need, and ever so more because of the pandemic, the need to continue to invest in infrastructure. And, I think that the relationship between Rhode and PPSD is sort of going to help to elevate that. I'm also on the Central Falls School Board, and so I certainly have a firsthand knowledge about the challenges and the importance of the relation of building conditions and how much it sort of sets the table for sort of teaching and learning. And both of those districts have a Rhode involvement, and so I think that everybody is trying to assume the best of intentions and putting students first.
Yeah, one of the more compelling discussion points with the superintendent of schools was the work that they're doing on the ground, literally on the ground and on the porch, on the patio, if you will, of getting students in the district that are not showing up for school, making sure, visiting their houses, knocking on the doors, saying, hey, what's up? We miss you. We love you. What's happening? Oh, well, we don't have the laptop. We don't have the Wi-Fi. And the notion that they literally, say, okay, I'll be right back. And they go to the truck and they bring they hook them up and they give them the tools, the basic tools necessary to be able to log on and to connect with their teachers and to, start the process of truly being present, even virtually in the schools. So there's so many pieces to this. And no doubt you are interfacing with the superintendent in ways that are probably very similar to that.
Exactly. One specific partnership that we've had with PPSD this year is through a new program called Accelerate. And what this program is, Laurie, is students who would have been seniors in high school this year were given the opportunity to sort of forego their senior year academics and to enroll either full-time at CCRI or full-time at Rhode Island College virtually for this school year. And we have about 70 students that ultimately decided to do this. We're supporting those students. They're all PPSD students. And what it means is that those students are not only finishing their high school requirements, but they're getting a major head start on college. They're going to finish with 24 college credits, and they'll really have had a great sort of college experience. And that's been a great partnership with PPSD and Rhode, and something that's really come together through the relationship that has formed and as a result of the pandemic.
That's an amazing contribution, right? If you think about it, 24 credits, I mean, to be able to do that concurrently, it's a bit like the PTech program, right?
It's similar. And so what it means is that, students will have, they'll have 1 year of, college credit at no expense to them. And again, the credits will matter, but it will also be the journey, so that when it comes to them to enroll, whether they stay enrolled at CCRI or stay enrolled at RIC or use those credits and transfer them to another institution, they will have had the experience of working in college level settings this year with supports that we provide to them, which really sort of helps to make sure that they don't get lost in this transition. But we're really excited about the opportunity to do this year and to continue this. There's a real interest at both PPSD and Rhode in continuing to expand this, and that in the district, when we have students that are college ready by their senior year, we should be giving them as many opportunities to take those rigorous courses as possible.
So in the remaining few minutes that we have, Andrew, I just want to, step back for a minute and ask you to look out over, the next half dozen years as an example, and think about some of the macro trends that are being discussed in higher education today around affordability, access, return on investment, via tuition. What, if you were to identify one or two major reforms, if you will, for lack of a better term, what do you see happening in the higher ed scene in the next couple of years that's really going to change, be a significant departure from what we know today?
One of the areas that we're really going to be working on is around the Pell Grant and what we call the purchasing power of Pell. And so when the Pell Grant started in the 70s, a student that got the full Pell Award was pretty much able to use the vast, was able to cover their close to their college tuition and fees just with the Pell Award. And over time, the Pell grant has not kept up with the pace of college expenses. And so the purchasing power of that Pell grant has really declined to the point where at one point it was in the 75th percentile, and now it's in the 20s. And so the thing that we really want to focus on over the next few years is restoring the purchasing power of Pell. We know from both a mindset perspective and from a financial perspective for our students that when they see what that Pell Award is, it really opens up so many doors. So there's really a national initiative to double the Pell Award, which would be just a game changer for two reasons. It would be a game changer for our students, and it would be a game changer for our public institutions here in Rhode Island that rely so heavily on the Pell grant money to sort of balance the books in higher ed. You know, the question of whether the state is going to continue to be able to provide the type of investment that they need to for institutes of higher education is really a question mark. And so we'll obviously pursue that, but making sure that the federal investment in higher ed is really one of the key focus areas for us over the next 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, so of course, a lot of attention being placed and pressure on higher ed institutions to ensure that the tuitions are in fact commensurate with the return on investment that students make in, post-graduation, and also their ability to become employed. And those are tied to higher ed performance, correct?
Correct. So there was, in the last couple of years, a lot of performance-based funding for higher ed has really gathered momentum, both in terms of students persisting, students completing, and then ultimately connecting that workforce data to that college completion data of, what are students doing with that degree? And that's something that we're very involved with here at the College Crusade for our own students.
Mm-hmm. So just to clarify, the College Crusade is in fact part of a larger network or of affiliates of College Crusade type organizations around the country.
Yeah, so we're a very active member of what's called the National College Attainment Network. It's a collaborative of college access programs around the country. Used to be called the National College Access Network. They kept the acronym but changed the name because really it's about college completion. They're the ones. They're DC based. They're the ones that really deserve a lot of the credit for the FAFSA simplification, for promoting the Pell Award, for really trying to, they're the ones that really have the ear of the executive branch and the legislative branch at the federal level in trying to make these changes. But they look to programs like us that are working at large scale in over time with really systemic changes, so they can bring examples to federal officials, and we work really closely with the Rhode Island congressional delegation to bring real world examples that can sort of be expanded out to a more federal level.
So the power of Pell. I think Senator Claiborne Pell would be very, very proud and excited to know that obviously his early work is continuing to pay dividends, and in fact could be an opportunity to really accelerate the whole Pell process that we've all become very highly dependent on in society over the last, 30, 40 years since the Pell program started under Senator Pell from Rhode Island. Yeah,
I mean, it goes without saying, Rhode Island really punches above its weight class on a lot of areas. And when it comes to, at the federal level or around higher education, finance, and solutions like that the College Crusade provide for first generation students, Rhode Island really it's big to be small, like we say, and we get to do things that a lot of other states can't really do. Our size is really a benefit and a leverage, and we really try to share those lessons learned and those best practices with other states, and we've had a lot of success doing so.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we end, I just want to say that your leadership has been amazing, Andrew, and you bring an entrepreneurial mindset, you bring a design thinking mindset, and of course, you bring the empathy and sensitivity of first generation college students to bear as well, to really, take what you're doing and to figure out how to, continually to refine it, to make it better. and to be able to, serve more students in a way that's compelling. And, it takes a continued effort of self, introspection and being able to just, continuing to look at the levers that that you're pulling each and every year to figure out what to do to make it even better. And I guess the entrepreneurial mindset that you bring and the questions that you bring have made that happen.
Thank you. And it really is a credit to the staff here at the College Crusade. They're the ones that are working with students and working with families, and all these ideas around innovation and entrepreneurship really are germinated through them. They're the ones that are sort of seeing how things that are working that can be improved upon, things that aren't working that we can make corrections to. And, it's an honor to be able to lead them.
Yeah, it is really cool to be able to talk to so many wonderful people over the course of the last several months who have used the pandemic, have used this time to really, think about how they might change it up and how to innovate and to, really deliver products and services and, needed advice and counsel in a way that's different. So we have been really excited to, of course, talk to you today. If folks are interested in either, getting involved from a business perspective or, participating through volunteer opportunities or funding, how might folks get a hold of you?
Best way to do that is to contact me directly. My email is abramson@thecollegecrusade.org. And I always look forward to those opportunities around, or especially around volunteers. We're doing a lot of virtual volunteer opportunities, especially around career coaching for students. But we're eager to we're already thinking about the summer and the fall, and we're really eager to get back to some of that in-person volunteer programming.
All right. So business folks out there listening, we are live on Twitter. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. Think about what you might be able to do, or what skills and perspective and advice and all around caring that you might be able to provide to all of these great students that are part of the College Crusade. And it might be a great new way to shake up your world and do something that's really meaningful. So Andrew Bramson, President and CEO of the College Crusade of Rhode Island, thank you for being our guest today. And we look forward to our continued work with you.
It was a real pleasure. Thank you very much.